Yeah, good morning, everybody. Today I'm going to present obstructive sleep apnea, which is the most common type of sleep apnea, and it is generally characterized by episodes of complete or partial obstructions of the upper airway during sleep. And it is usually associated with reduction in a blood oxygen saturation. Here they can see the definition, and it is a recurrent episodes of upper airway collapse during sleeping. Here show some pictures show the how the non-obstructed airway will be like, and the obstructed airway will be seen like this. Generally, apnea means by American Academy of Sleep Medicine, at least for 10 seconds, there is cessation of airflow, and which is the complete cessation of airflow at least 10 seconds. And hypoapnea means there is cessation of airway, but not complete. It is just for 10 seconds or longer, but there is a decrease in amplitude of measuring the breathing, or any oxygen desaturation by 4% or more. It comes under hypopnea. And under is an respiratory effort related arousal, which is called RERA, and is it in this case characterized by respiratory effort for 10 seconds or leading to arousal from sleep, and patients arouse from sleep, but not this RERA not fulfill the criteria for hypopnea or apnea. This condition comes under this. Like the apnea more comes under three events, like obstructive events, central events, or mixed events. Generally, in obstructed events, the characterize generally we said like the thoracoabdominal effort or partial complete airflow cessation. In central events, there is lack of thoracoabdominal efforts, but in mixed, we have both obstructive and central events. Generally, in sleep-related breathing, first they start with soaring and snoring, and that comes. It leads to upper airway respiratory syndrome, and that leads to hypopnea, and that leads to apnea, and that leads to obesity hypoventilation syndrome. This is a continuation of disease when start with snoring. Generally, patients end with this obesity hypoventilation syndrome. Generally, there is so many factors causes snoring. Here I show some of the factors, like it depends on the sleeping position, our drinking and food habits. It depends on age also, and it depends on what type of the throat we have, and the neck thickness and all. And in generally in REM sleep, we are getting this snoring. In REM sleep means rapid eye movement sleep, where whole muscles of the whole body are relaxed, but there is a rapid eye movement is present. In that stage, we're normally getting this snoring. And medications and alcohols also sometimes cause snoring. If we have very thick neck, being overweight and carrying a lot of tissue around the neck, it will also cause snoring. Next, I'm going to tell about the pathophysiology. Generally, obstructive sleep apnea is caused by tissue collapse in the pharynx. How this tissue in the pharynx is collapsed means there is a transmural pressure, which is difference between the intraluminal and the surrounding tissue pressure. If the transmural pressure decreases, the area around the pharynx is decreases. If that pressure passes a critical point, the pharyngeal tissue is damaged, that causes tissues collapse inward. By the way, the airway is obstructed. There are so many other factors like anatomical factors, structural factors, neuromuscular factors, and then non-structural factors also, which are affecting the sleep, causing obstructive sleep apnea. Anatomic factors include, like in children, like there is enlarged tonsils. They depends on the volume of the tongue. normal positioning of the maxilla and mandible, and lateral pharyngeal wall, soft tissue. And these are some of the anatomical factors. If we go into structural factors, there is so many structural factors. In many diseases, it will causing the obstructive sleep apnea, like retrognathia, mandibular hyperplasia, and Down syndrome, Marfan syndrome, and high archil palate, which is mostly common seen in women. Here are the slide show other structural factors, so we can go through this. There are some neurological factors also. In upper airway, if there is decrease in the neuromuscular activity, that including reflex activity, that leads to the sleep apnea. If there is a reduced ventilatory motor output also on the upper airway muscles, it obstructs the upper airway, upper respiratory airway syndrome, and that leads to the apnea, which is result in a sleep disorder. If there is an obstruction, nasal also cause upper airway obstruction, and in a retroparietal obstruction and retroglossal obstruction also result in upper airway obstruction that ultimately leads to the apnea conditions. Here I can show some non-structural risk factors like obesity, age, if they postmenopause stage, alcohol use, smoking, and some habitual snoring with daytime somnolence, and rapid eye movement sleep. These are the non-structural risk factors which leads to apnea. Other conditions like hypothyroidism, acromegaly, or neurological syndromes, or some environmental exposures. If they take like any environmental irritants, that also leads to upper airway obstruction, which ultimately leads to the apnea. Coming to epidemiology, generally in US, 2 to 4% of the women and 4 to 9% of the men showing this obstructive sleep apnea. But in sleep disturbed breathing remains undiagnosed in most of the cases, like in 93% in affected women and 82% in affected men. We can't diagnose the reason for this sleep disturbed breathing. Generally, patients are present with a history of the symptom. So the child under OSA, there's nocturnal and snoring, which is loud and habitual, which bothers someone, and there is gasping and choking sensation, and that ultimately arouses the patient from the sleep. Nocturia, insomnia, and restless sleep with the patients often frequent arouse and tossing or turning during the night when they sleep. Generally patients present with these symptoms, and some daytime symptoms like morning headache, excessive daytime sleepiness, or excessive fatigue or tiredness. There's some cognitive deficits also we can observe in OSA patients, like memory and intellectual impairment. And there is a lack of concentration and non-restorative sleep. Some patients present with gastroesophageal reflux, hypertension, depression, and personality and mood changes, sexual dysfunction, and morning confusion. These are all the symptoms patient present in the hospital of this OSA. Coming to excessive daytime sleepiness, which is the most presenting symptom in obstructive sleep apnea. And it's one of the most common and the difficult symptoms. It's generally excessive daytime sleepiness reduce the quality of life, because in daytime they feel very tired and dozed. It affects their normal lifetime, normal habits of the day, and it also affect the cognitive and the memory functions also. By Epworth sleeping scale, we can assess this excessive daytime sleepiness. In that we are going to ask some questions and grading the scale. By that we can what stage this excessive daytime sleepiness is present, we can assess by that. Generally, in Epworth sleepiness scale, there is 1 to 2, 3 grading. Like in 0 to 3, I mean 0, they never feel doze in the morning. 1 means slightly chance of dozing. 2 means the moderate chance of dozing. 3 means high rates of dozing. In generally in Epworth sleepiness scale, we ask questionnaire like just asking like if they're tired or not. We just ask how many, I mean, how much of chance is there to doze off or fall asleep in the following situations. In the situations like when we're going to ask like in sitting and reading, just watching television, or driving, or in a sitting in a public place, talking to someone, and sitting quietly after a lunch without alcohol, lying down to rest in the afternoon when circumstances present. By asking this questionnaire, we can assess their excessive daytime sleepiness. If ESS score is 12, which 12 means there is a more greater propensity to fall asleep on the multiple sleep latency test. If ESS are useful for evaluating response to treatment, and if ESS score should decrease by effective treatment. By physical examination, we going to diagnosis what is the reason for this OSA. Generally, obesity is one of the main reason this for obstructive sleep apnea. If body mass index BMI is greater than 30, most of the patient are present with obstructive sleep apnea. Like I said, in structural factors, non-structural factors like in large neck, there is a narrowing of the lateral airway walls and larger tonsils and a high arched heart palate. We are going to examine of these conditions if patients present with any. We also going to check that any pulmonary hypertension, any history of stroke, or any history of metabolic syndrome, diabetes, any congestive heart failure history. Because most of the systemic arterial hypertension present approximately 50% of the patient present with obstructive sleep apnea. Then cardiovascular disease in obstructive sleep apnea is that vagal stimulation causes bradycardia, which leads to provoke severe cardiac rhythm disturbances like premature beat asystole, ventricular tachycardia, and ultimately leads to cardiac arrest. These are the cardiac diseases we can observe in the obstructive sleep apnea patients. Indices for generally this sleep disorder breathing is checked by an apnea hypopnea index, which is defined as generally average number of episodes of apnea or hypopnea per hour. We are going to assess by this way. Like I'll show. Generally, in this index, we can calculate by total number of apnea and hypopnea divided by the total sleep time. If most of these sleep centers use a cutoff for 5 to 10 episodes per hour as normal. If the apnea or hypopnea in a AHA present with 5 to 10 episodes per hour, it is normal. If that 5 to 15 means it is mild, and 15 to 13 means it is moderate, and moderate level of obstructive sleep apnea. If there is more than 30 episodes of the apnea and hypopnea in AHA, it means there is a problem of severe obstructive sleep apnea disease. We can do as overnight sleep study or polysomnography in laboratory. Measurement of sleep by architecture and EEG arousals, eye movements, chin movements, airflow, and respiratory. In heart rate also can be by ECG, and body position, snoring, and leg movements. We are all seeing in this polysomnography. Routine radiographic imaging of the upper airway is not performed in sleep studies. Yeah, as I said, in polysomnography, we all are seeing this EEG, ECG, leg movements, and breath monitoring. And breath pattern is also analyzed then for apneas and hypapneas, oxygen saturation. Here I'm show the obstructive apnea for 10 seconds with the persistent respiratory effort. The red arrow mark shows the obstructive apnea for 10. It shows the 10 seconds of apnea in this condition. In central apnea means in here the arrow shows the central apnea at least 10 seconds with no respiratory effort, cessation of airflow. This slide shows. In here, I differentiate the central apnea and the obstructive apnea, which is I'm circle means an obstructive apnea. In a box is an central apnea. So this is the polysomnography in the sleep laboratory. Generally, these polysomnography is two types, like full night sleep study or alternative split night study. In a split night polysomnography, patients with a respiratory disturbance index higher than 40 during the first 2 hours of PCSG should undergo a split night PCSG study. The final portion of the study is used for continuous positive airway pressure device. In home also we can test this sleep studies, like there is three levels of portable monitors are there, and level 3 monitor is the best to confirm the diagnosis of obstructive sleep apnea, which in level 3 with at least 4 channels including flow, effort, oximetry, and heart rate. And multiple sleep latency test. It is an objective measurement of excessive daytime sleepiness. It consists of 4 to 5 naps of 20-minute duration every 2 hours during the day. The latency to sleep onset for each nap is average to determine the daytime sleep latency. Normally, the MSLT is greater than 10 to 50 minutes. That is a normal daytime sleep latency. In obstructive sleep apnea cases, is generally associated with less than 30 minutes with latencies. MSLT is generally used to diagnose the narcolepsy, with whom narcolepsy patients have hyper rapid movement at least 2 of the 4-5 naps during the day. In the treatment for a mild apnea, they have very wide variety of options we can treat, but moderate to severe apnea, we could treat with the CPAP method. And there is a conservative non-surgical treatment also. And weight loss is the most of the cases we can recommend the weight loss. Alcohol and suggested alcohol for 4 to 6 hours prior to bedtime, and sleeps on one side rather than stomach or back. And here the CPAP therapy, the most effective treatment for obstructive sleep apnea. It increases the caliber of the airway and it increases the lateral dimensions of the upper airway and thins the lateral pharyngeal walls. It maintains the upper airway patency during sleeping, and it prevents the soft tissues from collapsing. In 3 types of CPAP is there, like a nasal insert or nasal mask or full face mask. Any of this one can use by uh, according to patient's comfort. There is some guidelines to use the CPAP. Generally, in CPAP, we recommend to the patients with to CPAP if there is a AHA greater than 15, and regardless of the symptomology. If the patients have AHA of 5 to 14.9, CPAP is indicated with one symptoms like excessive daytime sleepiness. There are some complication and adverse effects of this CPAP. Like the patients, if using their full mask on the face, it may patients feel like claustrophobia and inabilities to sleep, sinus discomfort, nasal problems include rhinorrhea, and mask-related problems include skin abrasions, rash, and conjunctivitis. Somebody may develop pneumothorax and musculoskeletal chest discomfort. And if the patients can't tolerate this CPAP, there are other treatments also, like BiPAP therapy, oral appliance therapy, or surgical correction of the upper airway. Surgery for the obstructive sleep apnea is nasal surgery, septoplasty, sinus surgery, and others. If any condition related to tonsils, then tonsillectomy. Depending on the condition, like any anatomical, like the obstructive sleep apnea is presented due to any anatomical deficits, we can treat them by surgery. In pharmacological therapy, also we used it in the to sleep apnea. Here I mentioned some drugs like modafinil, which is used in patients with daytime sleepiness, which is optimally along with the pharmacological therapy. They can use the CPAP also, and selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor agents such as paroxetine and fluoxetine has been used in this obstructive sleep apnea patient. Of course, these drugs not translated, they're not used in any increase of the AHI and apnea patients. Along with the CPAP, if you use these medicines, there is an high result of the improvement of symptoms. In special population, like in children and pregnancy, is obstructive sleep apnea in some special population. In general, prevalence is 2%. There is equal in boys and girls. Major reason for this is adenotonsillar hypertrophy is the main reason for obstructive sleep apnea in children. And for this, there is tonsillectomy is the major treatment. In pregnancy, IUG are associated with pregnant women. If pregnant woman has an obstructive sleep apnea, IUGR is the ultimate result. Upper airway resistance syndrome, abnormal respiratory effort, along with that, if you're not treated the upper airway respiratory syndrome, we found increased symptoms of daytime sleepiness, fatigue, and insomnia, and some increased sleep disturbances. The first line treatment of this upper airway resistance syndrome is the CPAP. We can, in former slides we see that snoring, which leads to upper airway respiratory syndrome, which leads to hypopnea and leads to apnea. Ultimately, it leads to obesity hypoventilation syndrome, which is defined as morbid obesity. It is body mass index more than 40, and a chronic hypoventilation with hypercapnia. And hypercapnia means PaCO2 greater than 45 mm per Hg during wakefulness. This is the obesity hypoventilation syndrome. In this syndrome, the characteristic findings you can see is the hypersomnolence, signs of cor pulmonale, and nocturnal hypoventilation. This diagnosis of this syndrome requires a demonstration of at least 10 mmHg increment in PaCO2 during sleep. The treatment is which all for this syndrome is obviously the weight loss and central ventilator drive and concomitant OSA. However, it should not be used as the only strategy. It is difficult to achieve and maintain. In this, we can treat the symptoms like in excessive daytime sleepiness and hypercapnia. And reduce the pulmonary artery pressures and improve right ventricular function. By treating the symptoms, you can decrease the disease. And there are some other syndromes like syndrome Z and overlap syndrome, which related to the obstructive sleep apnea. In syndrome Z means syndrome X, metabolic syndrome plus obstructive sleep apnea. And overlap syndrome means there is a chronic obstructive pulmonary disease like COPD plus obstructive sleep apnea. Thank you.